Hey everybody, welcome. This is Ryan Thogmartin with Connecting Directors, and I've got Kelly Gillenbach from Passare today. Passare is a new tech startup in the funeral profession, and I won't take a whole lot of time to explain it. We'll let Kelly do that. So, Kelly, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks for having me, and we're excited to be here. So,
So, tell me a little bit about Passare, and first of all, how the correct pronunciation is Passare, correct?
yeah, Ryan, you got it right the first time. It's Passare. Some people say Passare. It's an Italian word, so it's kind of hard to pronounce. But Passare stands for to pass through, and that's one of Passare's imperatives is to help families in this passage of life and help funeral directors in this passage of life. So,
Great, excellent.
great question.
So, tell me this: why do we need another tech startup in the funeral profession?
Yeah, another great question. It seems like every day you hear about another thing starting, and this industry's kind of been flooded with a lot of different technology solutions. So funeral funeral directors are saying, what do I need to do? And Passari is the ultimate collaboration tool for funeral directors and families to connect. There's really nothing else like it in the industry. And the reason that a funeral home is going to need this is because we know that the funeral consumer is changing at rapid speeds. Things aren't the way they were 10, 15, even 5 years ago. And so Passari is helping to keep the funeral profession relevant in the way that we are interacting with the families that they're serving. So, Ryan, I'm sure you've seen this a little bit. There's a couple different things uh, that Passari is seeing, and that the funeral homes that kind of helped start Passari are seeing the dispersed family because of technology and even just, I mean, this has been going on for a while. The advancements in the travel industry, everyone's living all over the nation, and when someone passes away in a town, the dispersed family has to travel back to celebrate that loved one's life or have the funeral service. So, along with just the changing consumer buying behaviors, everyone's got one of these.
Right.
We're all online. You don't go to the encyclopedia sets anymore. You're on Wikipedia or Google to find these things out. And you may not be shopping online, but almost everyone, even the 65 and above age band, they're using an iPad to
Right.
research things about their grandkids on Facebook. And these are all big changes that have happened over the last 10 to 15 years.
So,
So,
in that regard, one of the things that we've in past conversations you've mentioned is Passare is really reimagining the funeral service and the funeral profession. So, explain a little bit about what that means and how you guys are working with funeral homes and partnering with them.
yeah, and that's been part of one of my roles is we work with funeral homes every day of the week across the nation, and really what reimagining the funeral experience is, it's just kind of simple. It's rethinking how we're interacting the families that the funeral home's serving. It's nothing more than that, but we're using technology as a tool, and because of that, in the fashion that we are using it, we're seeing increased and enhanced families' experience with the funeral home and the satisfaction that they're getting there, and really rethinking even the process of maybe the arrangement and post arrangement and the way that we can serve the family, uh, not just getting them from point A to point B, but how we get them there in the way that they maybe prefer. Not everyone's going to want to use technology maybe in the arrangement process, but we're seeing across the nation that more and more people are emailing the funeral home, maybe texting a picture of that obituary, using technology in the arrangement process. And if we take a step back and really look, Passari was developed by a funeral industry study that was conducted by 18 of the largest funeral homes in the nation. And this was commissioned to see what's happening with this changing funeral consumer. And one of the big things that I want to, share on and that we're kind of talking about is that over half of the funeral consumers or the families that we're serving are dissatisfied with how they're interacting with the funeral home, primarily because of this or,
Mhm.
what we're finding is the funeral consumer wants to interact with the funeral home the same way they interact with any other business. So, does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. So, let's put it this way: is Passare, in one sense in the word, are you replacing the funeral director, or is it kind of like with an ATM? I don't really need to go in and talk to a teller. Is it like that, or no?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something here. It's not like that. And I'll tell you why. You know, let me ask you this, Ryan. If you were to go to move to a new town and you brought up the ATM and you went to a bank that didn't have online banking or a debit card, what would you say to that bank?
I would ask them why they
And why is
didn't.
that? Because you prefer
Right,
to use some of
absolutely,
those things.
absolutely.
But you'll still go in and talk to that teller to set up your account, or you still go to them if you need a loan or some other things. Passare is just a tool to help with that dissatisfaction that the families are seeing on the interaction. It's not meant to replace the funeral home. These are all tools. Passare will never replace the funeral director or the funeral home. It's merely tools to help them interact and stay relevant in the way that they're interacting. So what we're seeing again is back to talking about the families that we're serving or that the funeral homes are serving is their experience is similar to what you just said. If they go to a bank and there's no online banking, they're saying, well, maybe I need to go down to the next bank. Families are experiencing dissatisfaction on the way they interact, and they're saying, if you can't interact with me and you're saying, I just need to fax you this, they're saying, maybe I need to go down to the next funeral home, or how can I do this online? And, families are doing some of this outside of what we want to do is bring some of that interaction back into the funeral homes. They're using Facebook or email or text to communicate with their family all across the nation because they're dispersed. Right. Or even if they're all in the same town, they're using those tools. And the funeral director never gets to be a part of that communication process or that planning process. And with Passare, the funeral home is right in the middle of it. So it couldn't be more contrary to cutting the funeral director out. It's trying to bring them back into all of the communication that's happening.
So is Passare taking over the funeral home website? Are you rebuilding all of their online presence, or is this more of a plug-in that complements the website that they walk the family through?
Yeah, so the funeral home's website stays the same. We know that a lot of funeral homes have really put a lot of brand equity and time into making their funeral home's website just amazing, and we don't want to change that. Passare is more of a collaboration suite on the back end, and your funeral website can tie into that at some level. But the interaction is happening through kind of a separate module, and the way that a family would start interacting is the only way right now is with a funeral director inviting the family that they're serving.
Okay. So it's more of a tool for the funeral director to use to walk the family through that funeral experience.
Yeah, and some of the things that we're working on, I'll give you an example here. Through what we call the collaboration center that Passare has to offer, we're able to start working on some of the biographical information that may be required for the death certificate. So maybe before the arrangement conference, this is how we're reimagining it, is to say, if we can collect some of the biographical information and maybe work on the obituary and figure out some of their service preferences and upload some photos for memorial items prior to the arrangement, we now have a whole different experience with the family during the arrangement conference, because we're spending time before the arrangement conference on what we call transactional information.
Sure.
Families don't get value by coming to the funeral home and filling out information for the death certificate. Sorry about that. The same way when we go to a doctor, when we fill out our medical history, we're not getting value out of that. We're getting value out of meeting with the professional and getting their advice and their assessment on maybe what we need to do. The same way the family's meeting with the funeral director, the professional, and they're helping them through that. But if we can take care of some of the transactional things beforehand, it frees us up for a whole lot more time for the heavy hitter value creating items that the family's looking for the funeral director to help them with.
Okay, perfect. All right, I've got two more just quick questions for you to kind of summarize.
Yeah.
If you could wrap up what Passare is in a quick sentence or two, so the funeral director really understand it, what would that be?
Yeah, great question. And it's part of Passare is hard to explain until you really see it, because it's something that's so new and unique that no one else is doing. At the forefront of Passare, it's built on the idea of collaboration. It's built on solving the issue that we're having with families and the dissatisfaction they're having in the way we interact with them.
Perfect.
Families, again, it's not that families are saying we hate your facilities or anything like that. The issue that we're trying to solve is saying, how do we interact and reimagine this planning process, and even post-arrangement and post-funeral, how do we help tie in the funeral home more effectively to that? But we're seeing that Passare can help you grow your market share. It can help reduce the amount of time that you're spending during the arrangement conference on the non-value creating things, the items, so you have more time to spend on deeping, meaningful, and unique things with that family. It's overall, the families are saying I've had more of a sense of a control in the process, and we're seeing higher levels of satisfaction. Um, and that's Passare's bottom line. What they're doing right there is how do we help make the family satisfaction higher and help make the funeral director's job easier.
Okay, great. I mean, that's obviously a huge hurdle that we're trying to tackle in the profession, and it's interesting taking that approach. So, if a funeral director watches this and really wants to get a hold of you to see a demo, obviously it sounds like that is the next step and extremely pertinent for a funeral director to fully understand the power of what Passare offers. How can they go about doing that or setting that up?
To get in contact to learn more about Passare, we meet with funeral directors every day of the week, anywhere in between 30 minutes to an hour, just to kind of show them what Passare is doing and give them some more information about that study that was conducted by the 18 large independent funeral homes on how they might go about implementing something like this at their funeral home. But
okay, so they can go to Passare.com and sign up for a demo there, or
yeah,
is that the best
or
way?
reach out directly at info@passare.com.
Okay.
And we've also got a 1-800 number that they can contact to get linked up for a webinar or face-to-face meeting.
Perfect. All right, Kelly, I really appreciate your time today. We'll follow up with you if needed with questions and comments. We'll see what the engagement's like. But thanks for hopping on today and doing a quick walkthrough of what Passare offers and the value of that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.